Greetings, everyone. If you're an 18-year-old young lady or between the ages of 18 to 35, this message is for you. If you're a middle-aged woman and up to the age of senior citizen, I'm hoping you know and you're nodding your head and you're saying, I know this. I already know this. In that case, you're going to go forward and you're going to remind every young person between the ages of 18 to 35 the messages that I'm going to relay in this video. On your screen, you're seeing a picture of a beautiful wedding dress. Most of us as young women and older women too sometimes dream of one day walking down the aisle in one of these dresses. And so what we're imagining is the fairy tale world that is associated with getting married. And I want you from this day forward to understand that marriage has nothing to do with fairy tale. In fact, marriage is a lot of work, a lot of dedication, a lot of commitment. And if we stop romanticizing weddings and marriages, we'll be a lot better off. Some of us ask our partners to show more romance or be romantic. Do you hear that word? Rome and their antics. Okay? And so you see the divorce rates climbing higher and higher every year because guess what? The people enter into these relationships and instead of building a home, they're busy trying to impress other persons and building houses. Anyone can live in a house. Single women, single men, even dogs live in houses. We're trying to build homes. But before we can build homes, we have to have foundation. And a lot of us have the habit of bringing children in the world and dragging them up instead of raising them in the right and proper way. And then we expect them to go out in the world and to perform, and we criticize them and say that they're not doing well and they're terrible. And yes, when I look at some things that's going on with young people these days, it is atrocious. But I'm not just blaming them. I'm blaming the house that dragged them up. Now, back to the story about being a young girl, dreaming about being in that beautiful wedding dress. We know we want to get married, but we don't know what marriage is. And even if you lived in a household where your parents had a really good relationship and you don't know because they managed to keep certain things a secret, they have gone through so many things. If you spend 10 to 50 years together in a relationship, that would require a lot of groundwork, a lot of building, not just yourself and each other, but working together in harmony to create a relationship that you can look back on and say, this is my friend, this is my partner, my partner in life, and so on and so forth. I'm going to talk to some young ladies. See, when you're very young, you have a different set of criteria for relationship than when you are in your middle age and you're older. When you're young, you want the guy to be handsome. Some of you young ladies don't want the man to have any values. You just want him to be handsome. You want him to have a nice car. It's the external. He's wearing the Gucci belt. And you don't know that there's so much more to life than just what the appearance is. In fact, when he's, so decked out in these things, you're not the only one that's seen him. And when you're talking to your friend in the corner, you're saying, he's so hot. And did you see what he was wearing? Because your brain is still not yet fully developed. So all you can do is think with the visuals. You don't have the understanding. And sometimes when your moms or your dads try to tell you, you think they're blocking your progress. Because in your mind, being in a relationship at this time is like the most thing, the end all and be all of everything. And it's not. For the women in their mid 30s, and you've dated for over the years, and you've had a few bad hiccups throughout the way, and you're saying to yourself, I can never find love, or when will love find me? And I'm going to say to you that before you can find love, you have to prepare yourself for love. Are you ready? Sometimes, as women, we hop from one relationship to the other. From my own personal story, at 16, I met somebody, got married when I was 21 years old, got divorced when I was 30. Within that 13, 14-year span, that was just one person in my life. And even in times when I was separated, I know I wasn't really ready for another relationship. I had to reconcile within myself who I am, what role I played in that relationship going sour. It's never just one person. It's never just the person who is aggressive or the person who neglects you. You also play a role, and here's the role you played. What did you ask of yourself? What did you desire in your partner? Did you sit down and say to yourself, I want my husband to be a kind, loving, gentle person. I want him to be a family person. I want him to be a man of God, as you would say, or a spiritual advisor. Did you say any of those things? And even though you have not said any of those things, that is what you expect of your partner. So we have to write down on a piece of paper that what we need in a partner. And we're not talking about money. Because remember I said yesterday, money will come. Money have to come. That is not your problem. It's having the right mindset. If you are a young girl, and as a young girl, your desire to get married one day is the most important thing to you, that is a problem. Because as a young girl, there's so many dreams you should be pursuing. Being in a marriage, you should be the last one. After you've acquired your education and you have your career or your business, and at that point, when you are successful, you can then say, okay, I am fulfilled in all these areas of my life. And now I can welcome someone not to make me happy, but to create an environment in which my happiness can exist. Now I'm going to speak to the ladies, because there's a lot of ladies out here that have been in and out of relationship and have produced children from these relationships. And as individuals, you come out and you're giving advice to people about men. I'm going to say something to you, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but until you can fix your situation, you can fix your crown upon your head, you cannot advise any other female. And women, do not take advice from women who are running from relationship to relationship. They can't give you any advice because they don't know themselves yet. Until you are prepared to sit down and go for years without being in a relationship, fixing yourself, you cannot advise me. I would never take advice from somebody who is hopping from one relationship to the next, producing children that they cannot afford. They can't advise me. Because what advice can you give me? If you knew what you were talking about, you would have shown that to me through your experience. I don't have a problem if you've been with several guys, because why should anyone stay with one person who is not right for them? I don't care if you have multiple children. In some regard, these children are here for a purpose. But when you have the kids and you cannot allow yourself to spend a month by yourself without thinking about some hand's foot that you can allow to be over your leg, I have a problem with you. Some of us women, we're so selfish. We just think about our physical needs. And I'm trying to say that sexual desire has nothing to do with love. And that is what a lot of women learn. A lot of young ladies learn because the person want to, you know, couple with you doesn't mean that they love you. Because the person find you attractive because you put on makeup and you put on fake hair and you put on fake booty, that doesn't give anyone any incentive to be with you. Some men might be attracted to that in the beginning, but at the end of the day, the woman they choose is going to be one of substance and one of value. For even the men who decide to go with a lady who, because she's rich, he's going to find a very poor girl to spend his time with, to give his love to. It's a very complex situation. And I'm going to say to you, many of us women, we're selfish. We're so selfish. We know the man is married. We know the person is engaged in a long-term relationship. But of course, we all need love. Not going to judge you. We all need love. But you know that they have a solid thing going, and you deliberately try to put yourself in the way. And a man who abandons his wife and his children to be with you can never treat you with any love or any respect. A man who is a decent human being that is engaged in a relationship that is problematic will end that relationship before he starts one with you. So whatever he's done to the other person in his infidelity, he will do to you. He knows how to cheat. He knows how to abandon a family. Let's keep it real. But as a 16-year-old girl, I didn't know this. As an 18-year-old girl, I was selfish. But as a 55-year-old woman, I should know better. So I'm not judging those of you who don't know better. I'm just saying, if you don't see value in yourself and worth in yourself to say that I can stay by myself and heal, or I can stay by myself even though I've never been hurt until I find the person that is best for me. The man or men are not going anywhere. There are great guys who would give anything to be with a great gal. But some of us, we don't want a person who has the attributes to be a good father and a good husband. Sometimes all we want is what we think someone else has. You want the other woman husband, the crosses, the destruction. You want the other man's woman, because she's beautiful. And as women, let me tell you something. Some of us know how to camouflage our ways. We hide it with makeup. We hide it with pretense like we're soft and gentle. Sometimes women who are more robust and women who are, more aggressive are sometimes not sought after. They're said that they're too masculine. When sometimes these are the women who are better companions, because guess what? They're not out there trying to impress the world with their body. They're building, they're growing, they're learning from their experiences. They're independent and they can stand up on their own and create a life for themselves. They don't need a man to do all of that for them. Some of you pretty ladies, you're so beautiful to look at, but you are pretty, but you have no character. You're so beautiful when you're walking down the street. A man cannot help himself but to look back. But some of you, when you open your mouth to speak, it is such a turn off. And I don't know who to blame, if it's just society or if it's just a new breed of young people in the world. We dream of marriage and having a home. And when we think about a home, we think about aesthetically pleasing, countertops, and backsplash and bathroom and all these things, high-end furniture, high-end electronics. That those are things. You can offer all those things and your home is miserable. You can have the beautiful dress and the huge weddings. You invite 500 people to your wedding, and when you're done, you're broke. These are not the right things to go in with. Young girl, find a guy who is ambitious. Find a guy who has no problem with people saying, his clothes is boring. Find a guy who has his head up on his shoulder, who's thinking about building his own home, who's thinking about farming, who's thinking about raising his children, who already is thinking how he and his partner want to raise these kinds of children, who have futuristic plans, not just on the Instagram bragging and showing designer wear, and you live in other people's house. You're better off having a room that belongs to you than a closet full of garbage clothes that is built in China and somebody just put their label in the back of it. You see, who is talking to you? Who is teaching you, young people, about morals and values that is so lacking in our time? So we walk down the aisle and we move into the home, the grand design. And then when things start falling apart, we're so bitter. The woman who enjoy taking a gal man is the one who complains the most. The girl who did not think about how the woman felt when she was abandoned. It was okay for you to take the gal man according to you. But when you find yourself with the shoes on the other foot, you want the whole world to feel sorry for you? Well, I don't feel sorry for you. You see, when I made my mistakes in life, and sometimes, as I say, some of these things are not mistakes, they're learning lessons. For us to learn. When you take the gal man, did you cry for her? No, don't get me wrong. A man that belongs to me cannot be taken. But I'm just saying it, that when you were getting involved with a person who was already married, did you think about his wife or his children? It was okay. All these side chicks, when you become the main chick, what are you expecting? And you're so unreasonable that when you start to wear that slippers or that shoes that's so tight you can't stand the pain, you want to go on social media and denounce this man and say all these horrible things about him, when you were the rising star, when you were the most beautiful, when you had your partner showing how round your buttocks was and zone his camera into your front and show your boobs and how deliciously, fragrant you were. You didn't remember the fat lady. You didn't remember the woman that man looked in her face and said to her, "Oh, you don't look good anymore." That wasn't a red flag for you, was it? Was it a red flag for you when he abandoned his children to start a family with you? Come on, ladies, let's keep it real. Let's be fair. All of us at one point in our life or the other have had our heart broken, but all of us must learn from it. And we must stop blaming our parents, because sometimes when the parents try to tell you, you do not listen to the parents. Your hormones are raging. You say your parents are old, and some of these parents have been in marriages for a long time, many, many years, and yet they have nothing to tell you, because guess what? Nature allowed you to be resistant to teachings so that you can go out and experience some things so you can teach your own children. Getting married should be seen as a very serious thing. A life-changing event like marriage is something that requires an adult to spend years thinking about and creating a certain harmonious thought about before we enter it. Many of us do not enter in marriage with wisdom. We do it because everybody else is doing it. We do it because we are jealous of the other sister who's getting married or the other brother that's getting married. We have to do it too because that's the nature of people nowadays. Nobody wants to have an independent mind or way of living. We have to be like everybody else in the crowd. And we make our choices. When we make our choices and we find out that we made a mistake, and put that in quotation, we just have to stop being bitter about it, to say, wow, I was selfish. Part of the problem I'm having now is because I was selfish, or I was impatient. And because I was impatient, I ended up here. Because all the red flags we want to talk about after the fact, they were always there in our face. But because we're selfish, we think we're going to be the one to change this man or to change this woman. It's always there. From the very beginning of my relationship, I could tell where my struggles were going to be. I could tell, I could see it, and I called it out. And I'm saying, once you see these things, you have to then ask yourself, can I live with this? This is going to be a problem. There's no issue that I have in my relationship now with my partner that did not show up in the very beginning. But when I examined it, I thought, if this turn up, it's going to be annoying, but I can live with it. And then I would say, if it gets to a certain point, then I cannot live with it. Women, we have to be honest with ourselves, and we have to become less selfish. We have to be able to think about the other person, think about their feelings, because if you're not doing it, then you're asking us to help you cry. Cry me a river if you want. We all have to cry. But after we're done crying, we must learn. I'm going to say to the young women, whatever intimate desires you get, that is natural. The body is made up that way. That doesn't mean that when you feel that desire, you have to go and lay down with somebody. That's the first lesson I can teach you. Those feelings don't mean you gotta call a man. When I was younger and I found myself as a divorced woman, even as a young lady, because I think 30 is a young age to be divorced. And I would have conversations about with people, and they would say, well, aren't you lonely? I'm like, what does lonely have to do with anything? And aren't you this and that? And I had to put a woman in her place once at my work to say, listen, sex is not love. If I want that, I can just put up an ad and I'll have men line up down in my apartment building. That is not love. Stop talking to me about intimacy and calling that love. When I would tell her that my girls and I are going on vacation, and I would show a picture of the hotel we're staying, and I would rent the honeymoon suite for me and my girls, she says, oh, that's crazy. How can you do that? And how can you rent a honeymoon suite without a man? I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? I'm taking care of me. I'm doing the things I want to do with my partner down the future. He must come and find me doing the things that I want for myself, so he gets the message. Young lady, now that you have made your bed, you're just going to have to lie in it. I'm also going to say that when you're in a relationship and your partner is doing things to you that are hurtful, or things that you want him to stop doing, the best thing to do is to have a private conversation with him. Or if you know someone who can be a good mediator that can talk between both of you, because sometimes we're being irrational when we're angry. Instead of going on social media and dropping subliminals, you cannot shame anybody into changing. So if your partner is a block that doesn't do the things that you want him to do to make you happy, the best place to do it is off social media. You cannot shame anybody into changing. First and foremost, you change you. So if the person is not giving you what you need to be happy, then you make up your mind and you move along. You can't disgrace anybody in an attempt to try to change them, because all that's going to happen is they're going to be resentful of you. That's the first thing. We are using social media now as our, I don't know, psychological, office. It's a place where we go for healing a lot of times, yes. But as long as you're in the relationship and you want it to work, you're going to have to keep it off social media. And you're also going to stop going on Facebook and Instagram and whichever platform you go on and look at people posting picture of their perfect life and say, that's what I want. I was working at a company and a lady got flowers and I hid them because I was working at the front desk. And I called her privately and I said, I got some flowers for you, but I hid them in case you don't want anyone to know about it. And when she came, she said, thank you so much, because they would make a big excitement. The women would make a big excitement and some of them would go home and argue with their men. And she says, the reason why I got these flowers is because my husband and I were having a big fight yesterday and he's trying to make up. I can share my stories about my relationship, but no relationship is perfect. And even if it was not perfect, I was not going to share it with random strangers. We often share the best parts because there's no one in the world who can live in a space with someone else and not have arguments or have disagreements. Some relationship have certain problems while others don't, but we all have our ups and downs. It's your commitment to that relationship that matters. It's your ability to work through those things. It's the things that are deal breakers, because I have my deal breakers. You cross a certain line, it's over. But there are things that I'm prepared to work through, because I don't live with the fantasy some women or some young girls live with. I don't expect nobody to be perfect. And I expect that as long as we're together and we're growing, we're going to have to always work at building. I'm not going to ignore my relationship, however, and wait until things go so bad that I complain. I'm prepared to do the work. And I want my partner to continue being my best friend, but I have to be a best friend to him as well. And if that friendship is threatened, I am not going to wait until it's too late to say or do something about it. Relationship will never be perfect, but you can't start out with a lie and can't expect it to become perfect. Stay blessed.